What's up, brothers and sisters? Kunal here, Bulls on Wall Street. Guys, let's take a look at the stock market and then what are the day trades and swing trades for tomorrow and the coming week. We had another pretty strong day in the market. We did roll over a little bit towards the end of the day, but I would consider this a follow-through day, considering that, we broke over, right, these EMAs here. And dude, there was just a lot of heat in the general market anyways. And so we did have a little bit of a midday kind of fade that started around noonish and kind of, continued on till about 3 p.m. before, it caught a little bit of footing. But that's to be expected because, even though, yesterday or Friday was a big day, we've come a pretty far way off the lows, right? If you go from 505 to 528, 4%, 4.5%, whatever that might be. And so, coming back and kind of retesting some levels, I think is a good spot. And, we kind of just came back and into this like a little bit of support here. And, we have a little bit of a zone of love around here. And so we found a little bit of footing and, we bounced into the close slightly. But I would still consider today a really overall bullish day. Beyond that, you just saw a lot of stocks running, and that's the main thing. You have your indexes, but what you really want to see is like when your watch list is running red hot, right? That tells you that there's, some spec action going. So you start to see these companies like MU just up, 10%, and, Meta up freaking 4%, 25 points, closing, really, really strong. TSM had, right, we've been putting this on the watch list for days, a huge breakout up 11 points, 5%. So across the board, you did see this you did see that strength, right? And then, even beyond that, some of the things that I like to track is just the number of breakouts. You saw we had 242 breakouts that, showed up on my watch list. And so, and that's with the filter of over $5. So you take away that filter, you get to see, quite a few. So this is good stuff, right? Like this is a follow through day, even though the QQQs faded a little bit into the close. Maybe to be expected with a little bit of light profit taking and stuff like that. And so let's get into the watch list. I think, the spec is still hot. We had some rest days in some of the names that were really hot on Friday. We had a rest day in Rivian. I would consider this an inside day and it held support. So let's see if this rips tomorrow. I think that this is probably a prime time setup, right? You had the big volume and then it pulled back today on about half as much volume, and that's really the ideal spot. So I want to add that to the watch list. Let's put in Pet the Cat. Pet the Cat has a $15 breakout. I think it rejected slightly by it today, but it tends to do that. There's a level here at 15 and some change that, if it can kind of get over this, I think we're going to get really some nice movement out of this, and it just trades really well too. The range on this up and down has been fantastic. RKLB had a little bit of a rest day. My guess is that if this has a week open tomorrow, it gets bought up. I would, even though it did peek its head for a little bit, the range on this was fairly narrow. Pretty much all day was sitting around in, 50-cent range, give or take. So I think this is something we want to add in for tomorrow. App is finally, right, reclaiming and remounting all these MAs. And, as long as now it holds in this kind of 350 zone, I think an attack into this 400 is in the carbs. FUBO, man, what a runner today from, up 250%. I think you got 500 million shares in volume today. It was Algo City on this thing today. You had candles with 20 million shares in volume. I think this is probably one to watch for the next, handful of days here. And you're really clearing out some huge levels here. If you go on FUBO and you look at the kind of weekly chart on this, then you got a huge amount of range break here, right? Coming back from, multiple years. And so let's see if this can, hold up. I think you don't want to lose track of this one. Lemonade, this one was the hot stock, of the previous push in November. And now we've kind of pulled really orderly right back into the 50-day moving average. We're sitting here. I think like if it remounts the 9 EMA here, that can trigger a little bit of some action here. And frankly, we've just been kind of tightening up this wedge for a little bit of time here. And we're in a little bit of a channel, but I think that if it could trigger over that 9 EMA the daily, that's going to really get this thing going. Joby had a little bit of a rest day too, a little bit like RKLB where, it popped over the previous day high, but then it didn't really do anything. So it doesn't technically count as an inside day, but I would consider this just an inside day because the range on this was 25 cents. Really compressed range there. And what we've, usually find is, right, the compression on these kind of names. They really get it going. Tesla had a decent sized close today after gapping up and running into resistance. It ended up returning, it ended up turning around a little bit. I would consider today a rest day, even though it did have a reversal and a filled candle. If it reclaims and remounts this kind of zone here, I think this one will be, in play. I'd probably, just do TSSL. It's trades, it does still a ton of volume. And frankly, because it's a little bit cheaper, you don't really get, there's something about Tesla that, right, the candles are so big that sometimes you get wicked out on it like all the time. So this TSSL is probably a little bit of an easier trader. I still keep an AVGO, even though it keeps getting rejected here at this kind of 240 to 242 breakout. It's just testing it and testing. It's a thicker stock, so it's not going to be like a low float stock where you just draw a line and sometimes it just rips through. Sometimes you got to kind of edge into this, but the 9 EMA is starting to tighten up on this thing. And as this starts to kind of, right, push into the breakout, that's going to really rip this thing, and then we'll get something going. So like the look on this. Lululemon also, I think this looks like a swing trade, frankly. You finally broke over the MAs. You're clearing out this range, up 4% today. You can even trade options on this thing for the most part. The options contracts are up pretty decent. It's not very liquid, so, you got to really kind of, size it appropriately. But this has got a good look with an attack to the 420s on it. And then, we had Meta with the big move today. If this has a weak open tomorrow, I think we flip it. I won't chase any gap up on this because it'll run right into resistance. And you really want that 9 EMA tighter for it to kind of break through. But like if it gaps down $5, $10 tomorrow, I think, we try to play that one. Or, like if you just get like even a push like this where, you just kind of dipsy-do into your EMAs and then boom, the algos come back on and it's off to the races. And then, keep an eye on like NNE, and then you also have, right, SMR and some SMR remounted. All these nuclear stocks were a decent range. SMR is like a little bit of the boring trader out of the group compared to, Oklo and NNE. But I think Oklo is now on kind of day 3 of the move. NNE, if it has a weak open, it should try to kind of take this thing out here. And then, we can go for a red to green. But, even though this company is a big gelatinous turd, I mean, it's got a setup here that it's just, it doesn't matter really how you draw it, right? But it's got a setup here that's just kind of marinating. And, if you can take out that zone, dude, I mean, you got all this heat. The liquidity on it was okay today with almost 10 million shares. Heat is heat. In the end, it's like, I did this, sometimes we can outsmart ourselves. It's like kind of like with QBT, this used to be the old NBEV, the beverage company or the iced tea company or whatever. And it's like, even sometimes when something's a big smelly turd, look, in certain markets, right, the smellier the turd, the more masala is in it, the better it is, right? In this kind of market, like you want to smell Indian turds, not just like, vegan turds or something along that end, right? You want, nice, Punjabi butter chicken turd, right? And that's what some of these things are. And so you just want to kind of, just keep in the back of your head that price action is the only thing that pays. And, you have levels that are starting to, right? And it doesn't really matter. Look, how you draw this, it doesn't matter. This is, it's a zone of love, and we're in a grip it and rip it spot here. And we got to respect it, right? We got to respect it. So hopefully we get a week open on this. We don't got to chase up some monster cock gap, and we'll have ourselves a little bit of fun. Beyond that, so that's the watch list. And then you have your daily traders, daily traders. IonQ's a daily trader for us, right? Soundhound. These are just things that we're always watching, that's always on the watch list. So you have kind of different buckets, right? You have stocks that are ready to go right now, stocks that you just trade all the time, like Tesla, I trade all the time, NVIDIA, I trade all the time, SoundHound, IonQ. These are kind of like daily traders, names that that you can scalp back and forth. And so daily traders, SoundHound, IonQ, right? The Tesla Nation, NVIDIA, right? Even Google looks like it's getting ready to, rip some tits. And so, these are kind of the daily traders that we'll watch because they're just liquid and you can scalp around on them and you can trade options on them and, all that kind of fun stuff. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I love you guys. Peace.